Why is self-awareness so important right now? Lucy Pattinson presents this subject for the Quantum Questions. Lucy is the co-founder of the Quantum Questions and part of the team running the Who Am I series. She has also been a breath coach for over 30 years, leading seminars and running a private practice.
All of you will have come for different reasons. I'd imagine a common thread is you just want something more in life. So maybe you're a little bit bored, maybe you're in a whirlpool of anxiety, maybe you just have a great longing for something more. So the talk today, actually, Sam chose the title for this talk, and I congratulate you, Sam, because the more I looked into it, the more perfect the title of this talk was, really, for the quantum questions, because I kept looking at why self-awareness is so important right now and thinking, well, the now is eternal, it's always important. And at the same time, we're going through this world crisis, which is probably far more in people's minds. So that, in a way, is what spiritual practice is, and also what the Quantum Questions is trying to do, to be a bridge between the now in time, the now surrounded by the present and the future, and also the eternal now. So I know a lot of you will be going through life changes at the moment. I think very few of us have been untouched by this crisis. We have a lot of fear and anxiety, which maybe was lurking in the background and is now coming to the surface. I'm currently in the Lake District, one of the most beautiful places on earth. And the day before yesterday, I went on a really lovely walk, and these two strangers were shouting at each other. And I thought, really? You know, it's like this fear, this terror is all coming up. So how does this question address that? Why is self-awareness so important right now? Well, I'm going to do a little slideshow just to begin this. Just hold on one moment. So 3 very powerful words: self, awareness, and now. So let's begin with the self. So you have the individual self and the divine self. Most of us are very wrapped up in the individual self. This is the part of us that separates us from others. It's our personality, our individuality. In a way, it's all the limitations about yourself. So I chose the picture of this person that anyone that's been watching the news will have seen him, just as someone that stands out as an individual. Teenagers, in particular young people, are seeking that feeling of being different. And this is what it is. It's about looking at the difference between yourself and others, how you are as a separate human being. The problem is this can lead to a lot of suffering if you go too far down in this direction. A lot of alcohol and drug abuse begins from this feeling of separation. And likewise, one of the healings for that is to find your connection to others. So is there any value in even looking at the individual path? Well, yes, there definitely is. One of the failings, I think, of psychotherapy, that it's very much based on the individual path. And we do need to understand who we are. We do need to understand our traumas, where they've come from. But if that's taken without looking at our immortal self, we will never find true happiness. So that is the key, is to do the two. I think it is really important to look at who you are as an individual, but there needs to be a way to use that as a route to our divine self, because that's where the deep contentment lies, which is what we're all seeking. So with this individual path, there's that classic book, What Color is Your Parachute? It is looking at what is your personal purpose on this planet, on this earth? What is it you can contribute to the whole? You need to learn about your ego, learn about your shadow, your personality, and all these form the ladder, the steps, the bridges to your divine self. And the more you can work out your individual path, the more your life will flow. But you have to have the direction as the divine self. If you don't have that as the ultimate goal, you can be in psychotherapy for 10 years and you wonder why you're still not happy. And I'm not criticizing psychotherapy, because there is definitely a place for that, but it needs to be in conjunction with a spiritual aspiration. So what is the divine self? Well, this is the part, even when you're asleep, even when you're unconscious, it's always there. It's always a light inside you. And we get glimmers of this when you're in a state of bliss. Sometimes it's when you're completely in love. It could be watching a sunset. I think most of us have touched on something that feels far more than ourselves. And when you do touch on that, it is such bliss that you want to stay there forever. This is really what spiritual practice is. It's trying to keep you in that state for longer and longer periods and extending it, stabilizing it. So also, this is not just for the individual we're looking at, it's also the world. You know, you have this divine universe, but we're also currently in the world with coronavirus crisis raging around. And it's the same idea. So you look at what is happening in the world right now that can be a path to the divine source. What in this coronavirus period are the gems, the gold, the learnings, the lessons that can take us deeper into ourselves, into our divinity? So this is, as I say, it's the path of spiritual awakening. It's going on these bridges from our limitations, from our individuality, from being in the world of time and place, to that place of timelessness and eternity. And this is one of the things that the quantum questions is trying to do in our own little way. We're trying to be a bridge. So when you start to let go of yourself to some extent, of your ego, your individual, it can be very scary, because you start to let go of all the things you believe is actually stability, when in reality it often isn't. It's an illusion. And it does take courage to go into the unknown. Sometimes you can feel like you almost don't exist anymore. So if you're in this state and you don't have a spiritual goal, this is where people get tremendous problems and you can really go down a rabbit hole. Whereas if you can be in this place of fear and unknown, but know what your ultimate destination is, that will give you the courage to keep going. So what are some of the bridges? One really beautiful bridge is kindness, compassion. This is what takes us from ourselves and connects us to others. Not necessarily just other people, this could be animals, the earth. But if you're just kind to another, and Mother Teresa said kindness starts in the family, it is a way where you go beyond yourself. And all of us feel so good when we're kind to another person. And why is that? It's because you're rising above your individuality, you're rising above your little self into something greater. Apparently, when you are enlightened, the only reason to stay in the physical world is compassion for others. You want others to feel that same bliss. So by doing acts of kindness, genuine kindness from the heart, you are touching on how it feels to be enlightened in your own little way. So awareness is obviously a really crucial part of this journey, and you want to increase awareness on all levels: physical, emotional, spiritual. Spiritual practices, I would say, it's not crucial, but it will certainly speed things up much faster. Without spiritual practices, really all you can do is hope for some grace, and but otherwise we do need to put a little bit of effort in. So for example, meditation, breath work, yoga, all these practices is about bringing you into the present moment right now, which is a great challenge for us all. My background is in breath work, and I love breath work because it brings awareness to the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, when you change the pattern of your breathing. And what's interesting, if you want to just try just right now to shut your eyes and just take a few breaths, normal breaths. What is your breathing like right now if you bring awareness to it? At a guess, I would say 80% of you are breathing at the top, which is called clavicular breathing. And this is a state of anxiety and stress when you breathe up there. So many people breathe like that. So if you bring awareness to your breath and start taking deep, full breaths, you can actually change your emotional state. Just through breathing, you can reduce your stress, reduce your anxiety. So that's one tiny thing. Well, I say it's not tiny, actually, it's quite a big thing, but meditation, another thing, you can just start with 15 minutes a day. The key is a daily practice, and it's a stepping stone. So what is awareness into the now? It's about stilling the mind, focusing the attention, increasing consciousness. All this is about going beyond the confines of the individuality. And as I said earlier, it's about extending this feeling of being in the true now for longer and longer periods. Thich Nhat Hanh, I had to practice that, is a Zen master. He says, life is available only in the present moment. Yesterday is already gone. Tomorrow is not yet here. Today is the only day available to us. It's the most important day of our lives. And I would add to that, this second, is the most important. So the path to self-awareness requires a state of wonder, a state of curiosity, courage, and also some guidance. We all need to find people with a slightly higher consciousness or a much bigger consciousness than ourselves to give us some tips. So I know that some of you will be wondering what the point of all this is. Why would I bother to, for example, meditate? Well, I think the thing to ask yourself is, if I carry on exactly as I am for the next 5 years without changing any of my habits, will my life be happier? Will my relationships be more fulfilling? Will my work improve? And people I know that start on this spiritual journey, maybe just doing a little bit of meditation every day, a little bit of breath work, as I say, it could just begin at 15 minutes. The inner and the outer world do start to change, and actually you'd be surprised how fast the momentum builds. Your external world is often a reflection of your inner world. So by going into that place of stillness within yourself, more and more your external world will begin to change. Your relationships will either become more joyful or they will fall away if they're not harmonious with who you are.
If you would like to know more about the quantum questions, please go to the website www.thequantumquestions.com.